Yeah, what's good, Joe? It's your man, the Bigga P, and here to share my thoughts from the PBC card and the HBO card from respectively Friday and Saturday. Overall, it was a decent weekend of boxing. Pretty much because we had that big drought. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of notable fights in August. Except for maybe the Ward fight. But Ward facing someone like Alexander Brand doesn't really excite anyone. Really, it doesn't excite the general public. So I was happy though because I was like, man, listen, we need some boxing like coming out. Like what is going on? But typically, I know summertime usually that's it's usually one of the slower points of this of usually of the boxing year, along with like in the beginning of the year too. So yeah, I was happy that this weekend turned out to be, pretty decent and actually good even. So, uh, I guess I'll start with the PBC card. The first fight that aired was Robert Easter Jr. versus Richard Commey, and they were fighting for the IBF lightweight title that was vacated by Bartholomew, I believe. And that fight was, I mean, there was a because I know when I was reading about it, Commey, and I've seen Commey fight like once, and I was like, okay, we have Easter, who I think is a good prospect. I have no problem with him, and then Commey, who is as regular as they come, but has 22 knockouts and 24 wins without a loss. So I'm thinking to myself, so we might get a boxing versus power dynamic in the fight, and in a way, that's what it was. Like that fight was excellent. I was because I was like, man, I had like you see Easter was taken. I mean, you can see Easter like when Easter was when it was like when he was leaning back from his punches, you could see Commey coming over the top with the overhand right. He was catching like constantly like some of the punches that Commey was landing off the counters. I was expecting Easter to go to sleep or get knocked down, and he wasn't. And in contrast to Commey himself, like he immediately when the bell rang, he started he put the pressure on Easter early, tried to hit the chin, and Easter showed a beard and a half because he took several shots for Commey. That I was like, as I mentioned before, I thought that would actually put him out. The shot in the eighth round. Now, most people saying like, did the glove touch? I mean, from my view, like first time I saw it, I thought it touched. Um, and like I said, I mean, you'd have to put the camera down real close to see like how much of the canvas did touch. Was it just like maybe a little bit of a space in between the canvas and his gloves or whatever? I guess for the referee was low enough that you have to count it a knockdown. Um, Now in this fight, Easter, for a guy with his attributes, I mean, most of the time, we read about him, like, you hear people compare him to Paul Williams in terms of his physical attributes, being the height and the reach that he had, and he had like a 6 or 7 inch reach advantage. I didn't think. I mean, there should. I mean, I was like, if he just popped the jab a little bit more authoritative, and like he made the fight a little bit harder than he should have. And like I said, and I do think that he did. I mean, he did control the ring pretty much like for the majority of the fight. But there was just too many times where the jab was not there, and Commey was just coming in and was just popping him, and it was able to blow him on the ropes. Was just was landing all types of right hands on him, and then like I said, including the right hand, the counter right hand that actually gave Easter his first career knockdown. And Commey himself, now my criticism of Commey is the fact that he was lunging. Like there were times in the fight where like he landed a good shot and then he was just lunging after him, like and getting himself out of balance, tripping over his own feet, stuff like that. And I'm like, and I know this is and for whatever reason, a lot of African fighters do have this issue for whatever reason. And I was thinking to myself, that's something that could be corrected in the gym. That all that lunging and stuff and getting out of balance when you throw a punch. But yeah, it's like Easter was Easter had a couple of rounds, like I think the ninth and also the last rounds where he was just where I mean it wasn't like he was moving all the time. Like he was getting hit with some of those shots too. Um, in the 12th round though. where I think I had the fight really close. I think I had it like Commey 6-5 with the knockdown, and I was like, all Commey needs to do is just stay on his feet, or stay on his feet, or even score another knockdown. The title would have been his. And Commey gets hit with with an absolutely brutal straight right hand to his temple, and I'm thinking to myself, and didn't fall down like. I mean, you could tell that's someone that didn't skip his leg day. I mean, that shot that he landed on Commey would have knocked out any lightweight, and I was just amazed that Commey not only took it and didn't go down, but stayed on his feet and didn't go down at all in that round. And Easter could have forced a stoppage, but he has an issue that Sean Porter also has at times. He was smothering his own work. Like, he had him on the ropes, he was pounding up. All he had to do was just give him jab out, give himself some space, and then, start throwing combinations. Instead, he got in close and let Commey, like a veteran, hang on to him and survive the round. Even enough for him to clear his head and actually return some fire back. And I'm like, Easter really could have scored a knockout, a stoppage, if only just given enough space. And that was just like such an opportunity lost. But that was definitely an Easter round. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have it 6-6, but the knockdown should give Commey the fight 114-113, which one of the judges saw it my way, and then another judge showed it, had it at 115-112, which I didn't really agree with. And then also, I didn't also agree with 114-113 for Easter either. But it was a close fight. It was close enough. And Easter, hats off to him, that young man. And he's the new IBF lightweight champion of the world. And Commey, has nothing to be ashamed of. He fought his heart out. And hopefully Heyman will do the right thing and then run that back. Even on an even more high-profile card, because that fight was excellent. To me, I thought that was a Fight of the Year candidate. And like I said, as of right now, too, I'm still looking for a copy of that fight so I can put it in my archives. That's how much I like that fight. I even watched the fight on the Spike website the next morning. So my hats off to both fighters though for making a great fight, putting forth the effort that they did. The main event didn't have that type of energy, so to speak. It was Sergio Mora versus Danny Jacobs for Jacobs' WBA middleweight title. This rematch came about because last summer they had a fight which only lasted, which ended in 2 rounds, but it was notable for the first round, which was a round of the year candidate, where both fighters hit the canvas. Jacobs went down, and then as Jacobs was stalking Mora lands a counter left hook that drops him. And when Mora drops somebody with one punch, you tend to raise the eyebrow a little bit because Mora's a non-puncher. But just the fact though that the second fight, as Mora was going down from another shot, he broke his ankle. Then that kind of left a very anticlimactic taste in people's mouths. So you're thinking to yourself, they should run it back. And me, I wasn't even crazy about that fight in the first place, but even I was like, okay, Mara actually knocked him down. Let's see what he can actually do in this rematch. He didn't do much in this rematch. Originally there was Mara immediately. Mara is notorious for doing a lot of his spoiling tactics, so to speak. The moving around, not engaging. And I thought he was on that. That's when he started. I thought, okay, he's gonna do what he's gonna do that stuff again. But Jacobs eventually, I think, got to him. Started wearing him down. Started hitting him with some combinations. Got him on the ropes. Started blasting him to the body, blasting him to the head. And Mora, had nothing. Mora tried to fight back, at times, but it was clear that Mora was just at this point overmatched. There were 3 official knockdowns in the fight, but Mora went down, I think, 2 more times that I thought were kind of official too, but they were ruled slips. So pretty much it was just Mora got after all the movement, Mora just the little punishment that he took, or I shouldn't say little punishment. He took some punishment. and then was just more than enough for Jacobs to put him away. Now, my thing was, I think they stopped it a little bit too late because I was like, you're gonna wait for Jacobs to actually put him down for the 10 count. Yeah, because I was waiting for this time. I was waiting someone. I was like, someone like because more of us can keep getting. He's a fighter, he's just gonna keep getting up, and it's like no one in his corner is gonna stop him from actually, getting laid up for the 10 count. And it was funny too because you could tell Jacobs was very disinterested in this fight, but he just did what he had to do. Like he wasn't all like he wasn't going to chase after him if Mara was gonna start doing the running and the posturing and all that other stuff that he likes to do. So at least that fight, that issue is settled. Jacobs was the rightful winner, and that's good. So hopefully Jacobs will actually go on. I think earlier, late last night, I saw that he wants Triple G now. So hopefully now he can start. He can make a significant fight with somebody in the middle of the division. Either, if not Canelo, because Canelo's, unfortunately doing another thing right now. Either make fight Triple G or try to get a shot with Billy Joe Saunders or somebody of that nature. Someone that actually make him interested in actually really fighting and making a good making a good impression. So we'll see. Now on to the HBO card. I'll talk about the doubleheader first. The doubleheader first was Yoshihiro Kamagai versus Jesus Soto-Cuadras. Now they had an earlier. This is a rematch from an earlier fight. I think it was like past April. Where they engaged in an unbelievable slugfest. I know Soto-Cuadras threw maybe 1,130 something punches in the fight, and Soto-Cuadras it was just straight phone booth, and that fight ended in a draw. But that fight left such an impression. They were like, okay, let's put this on HBO as the opener. Slightly disappointed in this fight, only because I think the fire that Soto-Cuadras had in the first fight, I didn't see it. I don't know if just maybe Kamagai was just either. It could be a combination of that and then Kamagai boxing a lot better. Kamagai went to the body early, had him in trouble early, and then Soto-Cuadras, as he always does, he tried firing back, but just took too much. But he just took too much clean punches, too much punishment. And then when Kamagai really started boxing and started popping out the jabs, Soto-Cuadras just couldn't adjust, and he just got worn down from the punishment and got stopped. And it was actually pretty one-sided, except for maybe one round. And they're saying that Soto-Cuadras is thinking about retirement, and I think it's probably time for Soto-Cuadras to actually retire. The guy is pretty much your typical journeyman. He's put in work in about, I think, 3 different divisions, I believe. I don't think and from what I saw in the fight, it doesn't look like he had too much up. So I was like, maybe, you fight a farewell fight against maybe like a nondescript, like another like a job or whatever, and then call it a career. As for Kamagai, at least now he still maintains his position as a pretty viable journeyman right now. Who I'm sure we'll probably see in some HBO fight in the near future. And then the main event was Cuadras versus Chocolatito. This fight was interesting because Chocolatito was going for his fourth title in his fourth division, or the title in his fourth division, and Cuadras did not make it easier. Because one thing for Chocolatito I don't think he didn't bring up his power at 115, and because Cuadras was for the first half of the fight, his movement was making him look foolish, and for Chocolatito that's a very rare thing. Chocolatito was landing, but I don't think he wasn't landing regularly as he usually does, because there was a lot of miscombinations. Cuadras, the movement himself, he was making him look foolish. But I could see how the judges would probably try to score the majority of the rounds too, there, because Chocolatito was the one that was doing the engaging most of the time. But Cuadras was actually throwing. Cuadras was equally returning fire with some really, with some fast combinations. And then once he settled down in the latter half of the fight, I mean, I honestly thought he pretty much, he pretty much did the damn thing in the later rounds. He late shots. I mean, he was cut. He was lumped up. He was lumped up pretty good once he actually settled down and stopped the moving. I think it's similar to when Lamont and Swift did the same thing. Once Lamont stopped the actual movement, he was winning those rounds and he won them like clear. And that's how I felt in this fight. But the one thing that really annoyed me about the fight was the HBO talk. Like the commentary itself was like, "Oh, Chocolatito was this, Chocolatito was that." This, I'm like, Cuadras is doing work. I mean, someone needs to acknowledge the work he was doing. Like the movement was making him foolish, and Chocolatito was getting laced with some punches. He was getting hurt, and it was just, "Oh, Chocolatito that." And I understand that's fine because he's an HBO fighter, but when someone like Cuadras is actually putting in work, acknowledge it. Random thing that reminded me, like during the what was it? Was it this fight? Well, yeah, was it? I think it was the Soda Cross Comic Guy fight where Roy kept on, comparing him to Hagler and Matthew Saad Muhammad. That's some stuff that I didn't understand either. I thought that was just like that was some nonsense. But yeah, Chocolatito had a very harder time than expected. Now, like I said, I could see why he got the decision, but it was not a dominating decision. Like he didn't look good, and he didn't look all that good. I mean, there was some stuff in that performance that could that take away that it shows that Chocolatito is not going to be too effective at 115. Now 115 is not the most active division, at least to my knowledge, to my thing, and I know. You had Monster in the crowd, and I think Monster would be a very good challenge for him to see if he truly does belong at 115. I saw he was in the crowd, but it was an entertaining fight though. There was no question about it, and my hats off to him for actually accomplishing, for being, for winning a title in his 4th division. How high he will go, I don't know. With his son, he could probably maybe, he would probably have to adjust it if he goes up to Bantam. He'd probably have to adjust his style a little bit. Just a little bit. But, Cuadras has nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, he did, he fought his heart out. And like I said, I think the reason why he did get the decision is because, like I said, it was just a little bit too much movement for the judges' liking. And hopefully, I think that in that fight does deserve a rematch. Hopefully, they do actually run it back. And then the big fight of the weekend, for reasons I'm not a big fan of, Triple G, who I am a fan of, versus Kell Brook. When this fight was announced, I was not happy about that fight because I disparaged Canelo a lot for taking that fight with Amir Khan. Because I thought, that was just a cash grab, and I'm like, you got to do this. How does fighting Amir Khan prepare you to fight, quote unquote, the heavyweights? The middleweights in that division. And I'm not, and like I said, I'm not a fan of this Canelo 155 nonsense. You hold the middleweight title, you're a middleweight. You fight middleweight. If you didn't want the belt, you should have fought for the belt, or you should have gave it up ASAP. And luckily, Canelo did his whole, saying, double talking and whatnot. So, pretty much it's pretty much accepted that Canelo is probably ducking Triple G at this point. But regardless of how I feel about the Canelo situation, I didn't want to see Triple G to do something similar in fighting somebody, dragging up someone from 2 divisions. Kell Brook is not a bad fighter. He's not a bad fighter at all. But Kell's been getting his own criticisms too because he had been told he had not been fighting. After he won the belt from Sean Porter, he'd been fighting his mandatories, which is what he's supposed to do. That's what you fight your IBF mandatories to keep your belt. You do it. IBF enforces their mandatories more than the other sanctioned bodies, really. But I was not happy about that fight because I'm just like, I can't be hypocritical and say I didn't like, what Canelo is doing, and then all of a sudden be like, yeah, Triple G's gonna knock out Kell. I didn't want the fight to happen, but at least it wasn't on pay-per-view, it was on regular HBO. So yeah, because I know I rarely talked about the fight, and then until it got closer, and then you saw the pictures, you hear oh, Triple G's gone. He's the random testing is getting to him. He's why did he come in at why did he come in at 158.9? Isn't he? Why does he look? Why does he look like he's not smiling? All this other stuff, and then meanwhile you see Kell-Brook. Kell-Brook pretty much. Oh yeah, Kell looks strong. He looks like he'd be able to take some punishment. Oh, they're the same size. Kell weighs more than Triple G, and that's all good and well. But Kell-Brook has not taken any punches from any middleweights in his last whatever fights. Because I know Kell has before in the past. He's in his early career. He's fought up and down in divisions. I mean, I know he's fought at light middleweight too, 154. But Kell had not taken any punches from any middleweights recently. So I know people were trying to hype up the fight. Oh yeah, Kell has a shot. And the fight itself, I'll give Kell's credit. I mean, Kell's speed and movement for a minute was actually better Triple G. I mean, he took rounds off Triple G and bloodied Triple G's nose. That was for sure. However, Triple G still has power, and I think it was in the second round. I think it was a left hook or jab or something like that of that combination. And then you could see, Kell, pawing at his eye, really holding his eye, and he was in trouble. And there were situations where, and like I said, Kell was fighting hard for at least until like the fourth round, and then and then Triple G, was fighting very sloppy. I mean, this is probably the worst I've actually seen him fight since he fought like Kasim Uma. In terms of like how sloppy he got. I mean, he really wanted to KO, but he was swarming like he was Ghost. The jab, he was just slapping it out there. He cut off the ring on him effectively, sure, but it was just like he wasn't setting up his punches. He was just trying to maul him instead of like boxing him. And he could have easily boxed him. Like, it wasn't like, he had the power, but I think he wanted Kell to really feel his power. And he was talking about, oh, Kell, I didn't feel Kell's power. That may be so, but like I said, the fact that he let Kell tee off on him and bloody his nose, that's not I didn't really find that encouraging. But Triple G is legitimately a heavy-handed fighter. Very heavy-handed, like I said. And by the fourth, fifth round, Kell looked like he was gassed from the few body shots he was taking, and Triple G was starting to let off some serious combinations. He was really putting everything into it. And Kell was just, his hands were down. He was like, what? I mean, I don't know what the hell he was doing. He was just too tired, or he was just trying to draw him in. But at first glance, you see Kell's trainer and everyone's like, okay, this is a business decision. Pull him out of the fight. And that's what happened. And that's what I thought happened the first day. It's like, you know what? They were like, Kell still has some of his prime. He still has a belt. He still has a name. He still has a draw. So let's pull him out of the fight. However, the eye that I mentioned before turned up that, Triple G broke his orbital. So it wasn't really, it was more than just a business decision. It was a great decision, actually, that a trainer pulled him out, pulled him out of the fight. Because we've had too many situations in recent times where fighters with sustained eye injuries, like most famously Antonio Margarito, that when he got his orbital broke by Pacquiao in their fight in like the third or fourth round, Garcia allowed him to continue a fight that lasted the distance, which Margarito took a huge beating that finished him, and now he has an eye that he can't get licensed in any fight city that's worth a damn, like Vegas or New York or any of those. He can't get licensed because of it. So to me, it was a great decision now to pull him out of the fight, because you don't need someone like Triple G, who's the pressure from Kell. I mean, Kell was getting cooked. I mean, although Kell was fighting back, was landing. Kell was starting to get cooked by that pressure and by the body shots, and someone with Triple G's power, teeing off in your face like that would only make the orbital worse. And you don't need to have someone like Kell-Brook, get ruined, get his prime ruined because of a fight like this. So But I give Kell his props. I mean, he did what Canelo probably should have done, and he should have gotten in the ring. And he got in the ring with Triple G, and he did what he had to do. And I have nothing but respect for that effort. For Triple G, like I said, it was just it was just it was just as expected. Um, Hopefully now, I mean, because now I'm seeing on Twitter now all the all the middleweights that were just pretty much remaining quiet are all now really want to face Triple G now. And hopefully this just leads to a more high profile fight, or he gets to fight with Billy Joe Saunders. Saunders actually decides to make up his mind on what the hell he's doing. So he can make I like to say, the cipher complete, having those belts. But unfortunately, like I said, Canelo, because of his situation, he is the lineal middleweight champion. He is the lineal middleweight champion, and he is the ruler of that division. So I mean, hopefully that will actually lead to a Canelo fight down the line, something down the line, other than fights like the weight fight or a weight jumping type of fight. None of that. So and yeah, and hopefully I'm thinking that maybe the sloppiness was just either this was a temporary act of sloppiness, because like I said, this was pretty much the first time that I see Triple G actually look. I mean, he wasn't hurt or anything like that. He wasn't like staggered, but he didn't look good. And the right fighter, someone who was actually probably could have exposed it more to a degree. But I'll just put it as as a bad day in the office for him. So yeah, that's those were the fights. That's my thoughts on those fights. Um, I know next week it's gonna be Canelo versus Liam Smith. I'm not looking forward to that fight in any way. Um, Other than we'll see if Canelo will actually fight the mandatory, which is Andrade. After that fight. So I guess we'll stay tuned for that, and we'll stay tuned for that fight next week. So till next time, peace.